And I don't think that's primary in their head right now, because most GTM engineers are thinking about what's the latest in AI that I can do for my organization, right? The list is taken for granted. Even though there's a budget, but no one's actually budgeting for a good quality data, right? It's just not in your job description.
They're actually cutting down the cost of the data, which means that you cannot expect the recent data to be available from their platforms, like for most of the platforms. They overemphasize on AI enrichment and AI actions and everything. Do you think the LLM has the recent data about a company? Companies, teams which are using these data set, and invariably some of these companies are moving in the direction of trying to make it AI and automation on the top of the layer. We are losing focus on the data, which really is the fundamental thing for everything else to work. Right?
It's the complexity increases with the poor quality data set.
Okay.
And imagine you have an AI SDR thrown into the mix, right?
Okay. That's your favorite topic.
Right? Hi folks. Hello Shri.
Morning, Ramesh.
My name is Ramesh and he is Shri, and this is Outbound by High Performer. Every week we talk about a topic that's really dear to us. We talk about what's happening in the go-to-market, what's happening with the product, what's everyone talking about as well, because that just gives us heads up in the week that we go with this part. And today we want to talk about something really interesting, and we want to talk about tools. Right? We want to talk about how people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars spending on tools, spending on infrastructure, and finally you still don't see their outbound working. Right? Is that a good place to start, Shri?
It's an amazing place, Ramesh. I think I also remember the Reddit post. I understand from where you're coming in, right? I think this is also in the continuation of the Reddit post you shared the other day, right? Meaning, I remember the post. I think somebody did complain about the bad data at the end of the day, right? After all the tools,
it just resonated so well with our GTM engineer talking about it every day.
Correct. In fact, not just the post. If you look at the whole thread, the comments, and so many people had, we should flash the Reddit post, as part of the pod. But you'll see that like so much of comments coming in, everybody getting to the same point. Hey, you know what? We have 5 tools, 6 tools. I probably have all fancy tools, possibly right from Clay to ZoomInfo. You name it, anything in between. But actually, nobody is looking at fixing the foundation. Right? I mean, that's what my observation was.
Very true, because I shared that to you just because, hey, we're talking about this daily with our GTM engineers over here to fix it.
Correct.
But I'm not sure what you also noticed, right, in the comments. While a lot of them did say, yeah, it's my life. I'm going through this as well. But interestingly said, a lot of them also complained that, hey, this is AI generated post. I'm not sure if you did that. But having said that, I think what's fundamental is the message is really real. At least the thought behind it, the pain is very real. But unfortunately, everyone is distracted with the delivery mechanism of this, because the pain is real, right? If it's a bad list, it's a bad list. How can you blame? That's the pain, which is real. It doesn't matter, the delivery doesn't matter if it's through AI generated or if you've used a tool to generate that post. But I think it's important that someone use that as a mechanism to flash the problem.
Correct. In fact, Ramesh, it's a perfect metaphor, right? Because what we see right now, I think we've been seeing it all through. Everybody's obsessed about a new shiny tool. Suddenly, somebody talks about
the LinkedIn is filled with
like somebody used an agent using a cloud. Hey, then immediately I built my open cloud with Clay, with ZoomInfo, Apollo, you name it, everything in between, right? But actually, people are not looking at what is fundamentally required for a GTM to be successful, which starts with let's say an AE SDR motion. Right? I think it's a very, very interesting problem. Let's get to the core of the problem, right?
Sure.
So, what do you think is the core problem?
I think the philosophy in general in life, and that holds good. I go back to my computer class back in class 8, when they said GIGO, which is garbage in and garbage out, right? It starts with that. And let's talk about it very plainly, right? If our data is bad, if the data that is given to our SDRs is bad, not AI, not
Correct.
like a
Correct.
CRM, not like a very smart AI, SDR, right? We're talking to companies all the time and they are like, hey, we are in the process of implementing AI in our GTM organization, right? We're implementing AI SDRs. And every time I ask them, that's great, it's awesome, but how good is the data? How often is the data refreshed? Do you have good quality data? And I don't think that's primary in their head right now because most GTM engineers are thinking about what's the latest in AI that I can do for my organization, right? The list is taken for granted.
Okay. And Ramesh, because they know, like what you're saying, right? Because they know that the data is basically a trash. In fact, you go in every business you talk to, every company, people we know, people we don't know. I think they've got a list which is minimum 6 months to 12 months old data. I think we've been in the data thing as well. Absolutely any data offered by anybody out in the market today is minimum 6 months old data. Correct?
Absolutely. I mean, that is insane, right? Poor data is really bad. And if you're also feeding that to an agent, at the end of the day, agent provides a skill. So AI SDR, it has a skill of talking well to a customer. If it's poor data, what purpose does it solve, Sri?
Correct. So if you take a step back, Ramesh, that is where the problem is, right? The data is old, 6 months old. The titles are not good enough. I think, we have been that, we've been with calls with VP of sales and all of them. They're spending 50K on a monthly basis, right? They use all the tools in between, Clay to ZoomInfo, everybody. The moment, the company, they have a very high, issues with the bounce on the phone or email, what? Instead of fixing the problem, they basically are like, hey, let's throw AI on it. I mean, that's a fancy statement today out of the market.
I very much resonate with you because what we also do, and we started doing this right at the time, is we want database, and there are tons of database providers. Talk about, you mentioned all of them, the workflow automation that is needed. But when you start doing that, you actually end up having a bad call. If it's an SDR, you're polluting the CRM with poor quality data, and based on that, you're also making a forecast.
Of course,
right? Yes. And we do this daily, right? A lot of our deals where it says they've had a positive conversation, within a week it's moved to lost. And the reason is, hey, this is not the right person. Right? You had a positive conversation with someone in the company, but how can it just go stale within a week? The only reason being the data is poor quality. You don't have the right person. You don't have the right skills that the agent has to talk. You're trying to just call, it's not going anywhere. And imagine the forecast.
So, Ramesh, in fact, meaning this also we had a chat, right? I think last week we were on a call with one of the VP of sales, somebody who's been our customer or want to become our customer. Same issues, right? But when we ask them, hey, what percentage of your list is actually, let's say, their accurate data set? I don't think they are able to answer the question. Correct? They literally don't know that. And
because the sales is very focused on the numbers, about how many calls have you made.
Okay.
Right? I think that's the leading operating metrics, whereas what is the accuracy of the data that we had? Sorry, I just thought, yeah.
What's happening in the process, Ramesh, is becoming an operational nightmare. That's how we've been pursued and things are happening, right? In fact, that's another interesting part of that post as well, and we are seeing the same thing, right? It is underrated in general, right? Because I think you have an ops team spending 40% of time cleaning up the data, 40-50% of time cleaning up the data, and they should have never imported it into your CRM in the first place, right? So it starts with the top of the funnel. I have like absolutely unnecessary data in the CRM, right? And then it actually starts percolating from that, and then that data is 6 months, 8 months, 12 months old. If you're lucky, you're 6 months old, but typically it's about 11 to 12 months old data, right? 30-40% people have left their jobs, so not relevant.
Correct.
It basically becomes part of your pipeline, right? And you find that the buyer team and all of them are, you're not actually really talking to the right people.
Yeah.
So if you look at it as a problem, it is basically absolutely junk data being used by the team, assigned to the team. There's an inbound sign up, then you enrich with. You think that you're enriching with a real-time data set when you use a product like, let's say, I'm just giving an example of your GTM tools. They're not real-time.
Yeah.
They're 6 months, 12 months old data.
And the worst is everyone talks about investing in a workflow automation tool. Everyone talks about, hey, can this agent run enrichments on top of it? But no one's actually talking, even though there's a budget, but no one's actually budgeting for a good quality data, right? It's just not in your job description, right? It says that there is no GTM engineer who is taking responsibility of the quality of the data in it.
Correct.
Right? Because
absolutely.
And every day, if you look at it, the marketing team is in a rush to go and generate leads.
Correct.
The GTM engineer is looking at, okay, this list is done, let me go enrich it. That's
it.
And then you want to push it to sales because you don't want to take a meeting saying,
correct,
hey, I'm late, let me go and re-look at the data set. Does this belong to my ICP? Time is lost.
Correct.
Right? And the moment it goes to the SDR, they're dialing them. It's trash, right? And that's the agreement on your point, which you said. It's an operational nightmare. No one wants to take this up.
And Ramesh, if you see the way the trend, it's a very dangerous trend is happening, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you heard about the price increase from Clay, right? I know it's just like, digress from what we want to talk. But Ramesh, you'll see this behavior is embedded into it, right? The behavior which a company like Clay or a lot of these ZoomInfo world wanted to do is that they're actually cutting down the cost of the data, which means that you cannot expect a recent data to be available from their platforms, or for the matter of most of the platforms. They overemphasize on AI enrichment and AI actions and everything. Do you think the LLM has the recent data about a company? Right? Of course, they're trained for a particular data set.
Yeah.
So which means that this behavior is going to become an even more complex scenario, right? Where operationally you will basically have serious problems. And like you said, the forecast will be 30-40% wrong. Everything will go down for a toss.
So I think I also want to take this back to our daily meetings that we do. And the expanded version of this, if I were a $30 million or $100 million companies, would happen in the boardroom.
Correct.
Is we look at the board, we look at the screen, we talk about, hey, last month or 2 months back, the rep's conversion rate was X.
Correct.
20%.
Yeah.
30%. Why has it gone down? Right? We look at the phone calls, we take notes or whatever, and then we talk about, hey, what's the conversation rate? Just last month or the 2 months back, you had a very good connect and a conversation rate. Why is it not happening now? We try looking and we think that it is the rep who's at fault.
Correct.
Right? We did this for 2 weeks and then we realized that maybe all the reps cannot have bad productivity. Every rep has their ups and down. But I think the problem was again with the list.
Correct.
Like, you may have great data, but are they in line with your ICP? I think that's also important, right? It's all a part of the data set. And I think what happens in larger companies is we go around sitting in board meetings talking about why the conversion rates were low.
Correct.
Right? And the fundamental problem is the data. The data that belongs to your ICP, that belongs to you, you're not filtering for it, you're not enriching it with the most recent data. You're sending out emails, which is awesome if the automation kicks in, but you're sending irrelevant emails. Your LinkedIn kicks in, it's just automation. It's not even in context with what the person or people want, right? There are so many layers to make AI agents work. The automation is the easier part. Good quality data is the tougher part.
Correct. And Ramesh, you know what? Typically, right, teams, we also start up with that saying that, hey, dial more, you need to work harder. This is the message we send it to the AA and SDRs, right? And then you need to have, we want to see more activities. But you have to understand that with all the AI stack you're building up on top of it, we need to also reset the data, refresh the data. I mean, that's a very, very important problem, and it's becoming a nightmare for most of the GTM teams which are trying to scale.
I think when you look at the market outside as well, let's take the NASDAQ and one of our largest competitors, ZoomInfo, right? And this is one of the reason why I bring this up is their stock is down. Tech stocks are down, but their stock is down to probably the lowest ever, which is at probably trading at 6 right now. They've done a lot of changes around the way they're changing. They changed their ticker from ZI to GTM to rebrand themselves as a platform. But everyone is probably also guessing what's happening, right? Is that the data model is probably collapsing over there.
Absolutely. Ramesh, look for that. The data is decaying, right? So the reason this all comes into picture, right? Companies, teams which are using these data set, and invariably some of these companies are moving in the direction of trying to make it AI and automation on the top of the layer. we are losing focus on the data, which really is the fundamental thing for everything
Yeah.
else to work, right? So, which means that underlying data is decaying. A static list which we bought 6 months back
Yeah.
is already stale now. People change job. The companies move, they pivot into product different services. The org structure shifts. So, which means that the whole premises in which you are operating as a basically list or enrichment from inbound, outbound doesn't matter, is obsolete.
But very true, and
Right.
and specifically, let's talk about small businesses.
Correct.
Who also sell, right? It's a level playing field. When we are cater to the small businesses, when we cater to companies which are less than 50 employees, or less than 100 employees, or less than 250 employees, they have only about 5 to 6 salespeople, right? If it's a 50-member organization, you probably have 2 or 3 salespeople.
Correct.
Imagine their plight. First, ZoomInfo will never work for them.
Absolutely.
Right? Clay will never work for them because, again, there's a complexity around it. But the fact of the matter remains that it will work for these small companies if you have accurate data provided to them, because they've anyway figured out the workflow. It doesn't need anyone else. They've been doing this for ages.
Yeah.
Right? They want to remain a small company. They want to drive sales, but they also want to get onto the AI bandwagon.
Correct.
And when you start deploying these heavy, it's very hard. And we've seen this most of the time, saying, hey, it doesn't work for us.
Correct. And Ramesh, you brought the right point, right? The whole thing, the Clay, if you see what Clay is saying with the new pricing model, they're saying that the value is in the data. The value is in the workflow, the value is in the enrichment, the AI waterfall, it's all about AI and the automation, the actions which is running, and which is basically in itself will create a data problem.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think this is going to get worse from what you are today.
Yeah.
And if the pricing of the data is coming down,
you know that you're not investing in data.
You're not investing in the data set, right?
Yeah.
It's a very, very important problem.
Which in word means that companies, small, big, medium, you're just buying a static list. You're just buying a list. You're just sending, blasting emails out of it. You're definitely likely to fail, right? And right now, the only way to compete is with relevance. Be it any company.
Absolutely.
How relevant is your messaging? How relevant is your outreach? Is there a timing to that outreach? Right? And all of this today data can provide. A good quality data set can provide, right? There's inference, there's computing behind it that can help you do that. For that, you need real-time signals, you need intent data,
Exactly.
you need dynamic enrichment. And dynamic enrichment is very important, because if I'm reaching out to someone, that person may be great, is right. The phone number, let's say your calling software figured out that they pick up all calls. Amazing signals for an SDR. But if they've switched companies, you lose the plot.
Correct. And Ramesh, the enrichment is a continuous process as well. It is not only when is not for the top of the funnel alone, right? The moment you have a lead, you have a qualified lead, and the person say, I'm going to basically be able to engage with a particular person in the team, we should be able to bring that data into your CRM, right? Let's assume the deal moves into pre-sales, the deal moves into into procurement. Do you know who's the head of the procurement if you really want to make an impact? So this whole enrichment is also not a one-time thing. That's another way of looking at it, right? When the cost of the data comes down, that's what people are pursuing. The new licensing is changing for a lot of this, the most popular products. Inherently, we are also not built for success right there.
No.
Right? That's where the problem is today. We're all getting busy. We basically move towards the shiny part, which is try to see how I can use AI for GTM. It is not about GTM workflows. The workflows will be taken care. It's absolutely straightforward to do with any workflow. There's no difference between most of the products there. What is going to make a difference is that how good quality the data is, how recent it is. Right? That's where the problem is.
Now, I have another angle to it. Right?
Okay.
We did talk about the data quite in length.
Okay.
It's the complexity increases with the poor quality data set.
Okay.
And imagine you have an AI SDR thrown into the mix. Right?
Okay. That's your favorite topic.
Right? Because, industry stalwarts, Jason Limkin and so many talk about how a well-trained AI SDR can absolutely crush any entry-level SDR that's in the market, right? And as far as the metrics, probably he's right. They have perfect memory, deep technical knowledge. AI SDR, there's no timing to work. We don't have to follow up if they're coming to office or not today, and there's no burnout. What do you think about that?
So, Ramesh, I think I see from where you're coming, right? I think for basic qualification, for maybe doing a basic triage of inbound, maybe routing, yeah, of course, yes. AI is objectively maybe better, right? It can do things faster independently, but there is a hidden cost that nobody's talking about, right?
That's the pipeline. And this is a different pipeline. We're talking about the talent pipeline in here.
Absolutely, right? Because let's say if you replace your existing SDR team with an AI agent, even today morning I saw a post which exactly was the same point, right? They had actually fired their entire SDR team and got an AI SDR with a combination of, the tools which were automating things on the top. But where do the account executive come in this, in this space? It's very important. The SDR role has historically been where people learn how to sell, right? Because we need to kind of have that, the teams would actually follow up diligently, right? Would be kind of more resilient, right? And how to handle the objections. So some of these things are very, very important. And most important aspect, Ramesh, why we need a team, of course, with the help of a lot of AI, is to kind of be able to build that relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree and also disagree to your point. I'm just going to wear Jason's hat a little bit over here, and kind of contradict that. If you are going to bring that in, then with people, then is it the company's job to run a sales training academy, because the life cycle of an SDR, and do you then run an academy, a training academy? But if AI SDRs can do 70% of their work at much lesser cost, at maybe 3x the conversion rate.
And Ramesh, I will flip the problem differently, Ramesh, right? It is not about whether it's AI SDR or SDR, right? I don't think that's not a question at all, right? But the question is how smart you are in terms of using AI to replace or to help a real person, an SDR, be more productive. Today, I think 70% of the time is basically going in firefighting with the data quality.
Okay.
And with an AI SDR, there's going to be no difference, right? I think your AI SDR will not even know if it's really hitting a right person or not when the data underlying is pretty poor.
Fair enough.
Right? So today the problem is this, right? With all the SDR and AEs, they are spending their 50-60% time in figuring out who's the right person to talk to, what should I connect, and all of that. You use AI to automate all of that.
Yeah.
You get me good quality data. You can do actually more with less people.
Right. So what you're saying is it doesn't matter if it is an SDR, AI SDR, AE, but if the quality of underlying data, the premise on which you're making the outreach is wrong, it's poor, and it doesn't matter whom you have. You'd rather run a training academy and make money.
Correct. Because this is the thing, right? See, you could have the best AI SDR in the world.
Okay.
I'm assuming that you figured it out and you got the best AI SDR in the world. But if you feed in like absolutely crap data, bad data, I think it is useless. Right? I mean, you could basically have the best human SDR in the world, but if you're giving them like wrong numbers, it's exactly the same thing. They will quit because they will not hit their quota. Right? But at least in ASDR, you will not even realize that. I don't think this ASDR will quit anytime. But at least your real person who you have, I think you'll see that next 3-6 months, people will quit because you're giving them absolutely wrong data.
But before that, I want to stop you there, Sri. I think I want to go back to the post, and I want to talk about the authenticity problem in that.
Okay.
Even in an AI SDR or whatever, I think people today have this notion of, hey, this is an AI call. Can I just cut it?
Okay.
Right? Even in that post, people were talking more about the post, the delivery mechanism, which is it AI? Is it AI slop? Is there an intellectual? It's intellectually deficient in
is it even authentic for us to even spend time? Right? So that really. I would say that's the pulse of the market right now, Ramesh, right? That I think you're getting the pulse of the market, right? People can sense when something is not authentic, correct? They would sense it now, right? And they would immediately reject it. Same thing applies for you're talking about a post here which is written by AI, which if you feel it's not authentic, of course you can go course correct and make it look like human and all that stuff. But the moment you feel it is not authentic, I think you're going to reject it. It's the same thing, even, this is applicable for an ASDR as well. So this is, even if it's a message, it's the same thing.
Okay. So it's just not about the quality of data. I think there is a rejection level that we all have to live with, the authenticity issue. But more so if the data is poor.
Correct.
It's all the more going to, people are going to probably reflect on the company's trust on using an AI rather than actual data in itself.
But that is the real trust, I would say the paradox, right? In a sense, what we are trying to get into with all the AI and other different tools, everybody wants to have a fancy, toolkit today. You could scale the outreach. I'm sure, Ramesh, you have seen enough of LinkedIn posts which says I can send 1 million emails. You can scale your outreach in, maybe you can go from the X to, let's say, 20x of number of emails, number of LinkedIn posts, all of that, right? But the moment you basically destroy the trust with a message which is not credible, which is not authentic,
yeah,
what happens? You just move on from there. Absolutely you get no results.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're really smart about it, Sri, right? If you're still using AI to do the research, to formulate the hypothesis, what to send as part of the initial sequence, but if you have a human send it, it's very different. Now it's just not about being authentic or something. It's actually just smart because you're allowing the agent to do the hard work, heavy lifting research. You ensure that it's true data, and a human actually sends it. Then you're actually being smart about it.
So let's talk about how we are doing it, from actually just as sense of people get an idea about what is working for us, right?
I think that's a good segue to our last piece over here and how we are looking at this at High Performer. We work from a customer standpoint, from a customer base, we work with a lot of GTM teams, and there are very clear patterns there. The companies that are winning right now are not the ones with the fanciest tech stack, and because for us as well, it's a very hard conversation to have when it comes to a tech stack conversation. But the ones who are really smart in keeping that human authenticity very clear is their problem is data. Hey, I need more people to reach out to, and in what context? And that's where we are really seeing what's working here at High Performer.
So that, what are you saying, that when they're invested on cleaning the data, rather than, of course, automation is one time. Of course, you could use AI or whatever you wanted to, you feel like, which is current, you can use it. But the customers, and even in our case, when you're investing in cleaning the data, it's a constant thing. It has to happen week on week. It has to happen month on month across the funnel. I think then you build a very dynamic enrichment workflow. It could be powered by AI and agentic and all of that. You could put them all in the mix. But that is where I think, it's more upfront work.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think that is paying off.
Oh, that is because I'll also tell you, we speak to companies who are enterprise-ish, mid-market-ish, and so on as well.
Okay.
Even the salesperson is thinking tech stack.
Yeah.
They are still, because they are a major influencer in the buying decision, but they don't care about their actual problems.
Okay.
Right? And hey, no one's asked me how different is your data from ZoomInfo or Clay. Because their fundamental objection is, hey, we are already using ZoomInfo, Clay, and talk about the most fanciest in town. They're not even asking how different is it. So don't even bring data to it. And that's becoming a hard part actually, because to go and talk to people about the authenticity of data, you've got to feel it. You've got to trial it and see, feel the data, right? You got to ensure that, okay, let's take a punt on this company because they're talking about better company. That I think is a harder issue that we are facing at this time.
Okay. So which means, if you, in essence, what you're saying, if a company or, it applies to us as well, right? If they just become a little lazy about the data, which
no one cares.
No tools is going to fix it. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Interesting. So where do you think is the market shifting, Ramesh? If you want to, double click on the market shifting.
I think if in the next couple of years or next couple of quarters, at the speed at which we will make, I think the era of a single vendor for data, the monolith era, that probably Clay or ZoomInfo was, that is going to go away, right?
Okay.
Because there is a pivot in the way Clay is pricing right now.
Okay.
The market is moving to we are seeing this. The market is moving more towards a very dynamic modular approach where they're looking at data, where they will start looking at data authenticity. But tools are just like for outreach, or that could be slightly more different. Every company like us, we will have multiple sources of data to verify, to authenticate it for various reasons. It's going to be more complex because the more data sets you have, the orchestration becomes tougher from a tech standpoint, but it will be accurate.
Okay.
I think that's where it should be accurate. Yeah, because add more data sets, add more authentic data, and you will see the magic happen. Because I think today, Sri, the whole idea of workflows is just become a commodity, right? But ensuring that the data is real, the data is relevant, the data is real time, the data is as present as it can get. Obviously, no data in the world can say if I have changed a job today, but you've got to have it with recent amount of accuracy.
Interesting. So what you're saying is companies which figure out this is going to scale, because it's not about scale as well, right? I mean, I think one thing which is going to change, I think, Ramesh, I think it will take a little bit of time to realize that it's not about scale, how many emails I can send, how many calls I can make. That is not really is the vantage point for anybody going forward.
I think it's the vantage for any sales team, as what we are seeing it, is the quality of the pipeline.
The quality of the pipeline.
Of course, for new SDRs who are coming in, we are still talking about, hey, are you able to hit that dialing numbers just from a general? But if you look at a seasoned SDR who's been there, when the data quality is really good, what's the quality of the pipe?
Correct.
Because a lot of their activities is now minimized in terms of verification. There is no lead development representative, all of that needed. But are you making quality calls? Are you having quality conversations? And therefore, is your pipeline, does it belong to a certain quality? Right?
Okay.
It's real.
What you're saying is that I think in addition to a lot of this AI workflows for scale and all of that, I think the baseline research and everything, that's one part which will make every GTM person more productive. I think recency and the relevance of the data across the deal, across the deal pipeline is very, very important. I think maybe the company which will figure that out will be able to scale it up.
Absolutely, right? Because I think, Sri, that's data is the only moat, and we've spoken about this in multiple places. Because when two tech companies compete as a vendor, you're definitely likely to buy both of them either this year or the next year. Just because you want some workflow, you don't want any failures in the workflow and all of that. That workflow doesn't become a moat anymore because you are very vulnerable. But if your data quality is really good, you are getting, let's say, 30% more meetings, you have 50% more connect rates. You are able to understand if this person is active on LinkedIn, and therefore let's send them a LinkedIn message first. That's a solid signal to work with, right? People are going to trust you and have you as a vendor of choice in terms of data for the next few years. But if you're going to apply only on saying, okay, I'll help you automate, I will sync the data real time, you don't need it.
But I'll tell you this, Ramesh, interesting piece to just wrap it up, right? If you look at the hyperscaler companies like Anthropic, right? Even though they come up front and say that, we are writing all our code with agents, I don't think they're saying that with their sales team. They are aggressively hiring their enterprise sales.
Of course.
Right? So it does mean probably, it's a kind of a lesson for us to take from even from the hyperscaler companies. They still haven't put an AI SDR in front of the people to kind of generate revenue on that scale. So I think,
I haven't, although the AI SDR is a very sexy term, I haven't heard even a single company that they say, hey, we've stopped hiring SDRs. We have.
But there are a few companies.
10 licenses on it. I think those companies exist on LinkedIn.
So there are noises happening out of the market. So, if you're just give a quick takeaway, Ramesh, what is your takeaway for?
So if you're a salesperson, if you're the VP of sales, if you are the GTM engineer, if you're a salesperson, and if you are listening to us, I think the question you got to ask is, how do I answer my boss on a pipeline review? Is not about the activities or the number of calls. Is have I generated quality pipeline? Which means, do I have good quality data? Which means that you reach out to 30 people and 25 of them said that they are not there in the company. This is not a good time to reach out to them, or for any other reason. If that's bad data quality, and if the answer is like yes, the data quality is bad, then you need to find out why, because that is the only reason what's going to happen downstream. Your calls, your meeting, your schedules, your pipeline is purely because of the quality of data, right? So
interesting. So if you are basically a sales leadership, I think your priority should be
quality of data,
the data quality.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I think.
Right. So let us know what you think. That's it. That's what we have for today in this episode of Outbound by High Performer. Challenge the data that you have. Ensure it's of great quality. LinkedIn messages are the best. Get motivated, but just don't go by them. All right. With that, see you around. Bye. Bye.